exam. And then once you do that, you can put yourself out there as board certified, in aviation law.
And part of being a board certified aviation, expert that only represents plaintiffs is you are representing the families that of Americans that have either been seriously injured or killed in aviation accidents, commercial aviation accidents, military aviation accidents. So anything from a private plane to a commercial airline to a military plane. Right. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I think what I really want to get in, because I know a lot of our listeners obviously are military, or this is a super fascinating topic because obviously to become, board certified in aviation, to have your background and to be in that, I mean, that fits like a glove, right? I mean, you already have such a in-depth knowledge of a lot of these topics. Plus now you attach that to the law and what you know about the law. I mean, you're ready to represent military families in these accidents. So can we get into a couple examples of what I know you've told me this in the past, but let's say a flight goes, or a commercial or military airline goes down in international country or over international water. What's the first thing that happens? You get a call from the family, or how do you work up that case? Where do you sue? All of those things.
Well, it depends. The calls, most people don't know. If they know somebody that's in an aviation accident, nobody knows an aviation attorney. They're not like, oh, If you get in a car accident, you know who to call most of the time. If you get divorced, somebody will know that type of attorney. But most families know an attorney, and they'll say, hey, do you know anybody that does this type of work? And that attorney might know, they might not know, but they'll usually have a network of people, like you do, that same way that we met, through a network of attorneys that all do kind of different stuff, but, network together. So that's usually how we'll get a call is an attorney that got a call from a family member or a friend, and they reach out to us. That's generally how we get our cases. And then the first thing you do is you obviously meet with the client and find out who, what you might be also meeting with the person who was in the accident. Just depends if they survive it or not. And then you kind of figure out who they are. Are they the pilot? Are they a passenger? Or are they a family member of somebody who was one of those things? And then you start to just look. You get a lot of the information you can get initially is going to be online. Aviation accidents tend to make the news right away. It's car accidents don't necessarily always make the news, but an aviation accident will be on the news right away because it's interesting to people. So you can first you'll look up the news story, see if there's any pictures of the aircraft. Generally, you can find out the tail number of the aircraft pretty easily online, or sometimes the person coming to see you knows it. A lot of times people will not come to us right away because which means there'll be more stuff online about it. The NTSB will release a preliminary report that just says, okay, an aircraft crashed on this day at this location. Here's the tail number. They don't ever give you the names. They just tell you kind of the basic information, and they say, here's the investigator who's investigating it, and, we'll release a report sometime in the future. Those reports generally take about 2 years to come out. If it's kind of a more high-profile accident, it might be released sooner than that. In a case like Kobe Bryant or, just a case that has more national interest, the NTSB might put more assets towards it, so it might get the report might come out a little sooner. They'll usually do like a factual report, and online they'll put a docket on there, and they'll have, interviews from witnesses on there. And this is stuff anybody can go find. Anybody can go on the NTSB's website and look up the docket for any particular aircraft accident. And so when somebody comes to see us, if they've come through that sort of channel of, maybe they've called a law firm that advertises that does aviation law, and maybe that firm decided they didn't want to pursue the case, they might come to us that way. If they come through a family member. So it could be a couple months down the road, could be a couple years. And then there might be a lot of stuff out there for us to look at. And so that's how we kind of start our investigation. And because a couple of us are pilots ourselves, we have at least enough, enough know-how to take an initial look at it and say, yeah, I think there's something here. I think there's a case here. And if we don't, we have experts that we call, that are pilots or maintainers or radar experts or weather experts. And these are guys that are either still working in those industries, still flying, or, that we've worked on with cases or have testified. And a lot of times we'll call them up and say, hey, what's your feeling on this? So the hardest thing, though, is that, sometimes cases go through several firms, and, the statute of limitations in every state is going to be different. If it's in Florida, it's 2 years. If it's a wrongful death, if the person died, if it's personal injury, it's 4 years. But other states, some states only have like a year statute of limitations for a wrongful death. And so one of the things you have to do is decide, okay, well, where can we file this lawsuit? And how much time do we have? So if the case comes,
Sure.
We've had cases that come to us a couple weeks from another firm before that statute expires, and you're scrambling to get it filed in time, because if you miss that deadline, it's done. You'll never be able to file it.